Okay, so first things first, the avoidance cycle. Paruresis is built on avoidance, and you may have come across the term avoidant paruresis. All avoidance does is reinforce its hold on you. The more you avoid it, the more of a grip it's going to have on you. So I didn't really turn my situation around until I really grasped this. And I really saw the avoidance for what it was. You see, what happens with avoidance is, let's say for example, typical situation for me would be at work, I need to pee, I'm in the changing rooms, and if there's other guys around, I wouldn't even attempt it. It wouldn't be until they'd left that I'd get a sense of relief. I'd be like, thank goodness, I can go now. I'd get into a stall, I'd be able to relax enough to pee if there was no one around. It's the relief. It's the relief, the sense of relief is the reinforcer. Because you're rewarded, the behaviour is rewarded. And that's what teaches the brain that avoidance is good and toilets are bad. And I can remember the turning point for me, because I'd got to the point where I was totally sick to death of paruresis, and I was determined to turn it around because I'd had enough. And I remember when I was in the gym, I was cleaning the mats, I realised that I needed to pee, and I caught myself playing out the avoidant dialogue in my head. I saw it for what it was. I was hesitating, you see, but I recognised it as avoidance, and I thought, right, this has got to stop. I put my cleaning equipment down and I went straight to the toilets. And the point is, I wasn't concerned about whether I would be able to pee or not. My main concern was breaking the avoidance pattern, because I knew that if I was going to have a chance of overcoming this, I have to start teaching the brain that avoidance is not a worthwhile strategy. And because I wasn't concerned about whether I would pee or not, I was able to. There were guys in there, but I was able to pee. Now, I wasn't cured at that point, but things got a lot better for me. There were ups and downs along the way, but that was the major turning point. And I began to see all the coping behaviours for what they were. They were forms of avoidance. So all those times where I would limit my fluid intake, I'd turn down drinks. If I was at a friend's house, they'd offer me a drink, I'd say no. And I had this thing where I had to go to the toilet before I could leave my apartment. And it would be the same at work. If I was leaving work to go home, I had to void before I could leave. And a lot of the times, it wasn't even because I really needed the toilet. Sometimes I'd go and not much urine would come out. It was this psychological grip where I just had to go before I could leave. So I began to see that for what it was. And I began to do things differently. You see, the thing with avoidance is you might successfully avoid a situation. Let's say you're at a business meeting. You realise you need to pee, but you just don't want to face failure. You don't want to go to the toilet and come back having not peed. You'd rather avoid it and put up with having a bit of a full bladder. And then once the meeting's over, you feel relieved and you go to the toilet and you're able to go. Let's say, for example, you're able to go. So yeah, we avoided that situation, but what have we achieved really? You know, paruresis is not something that you grow out of. You have to take action on it. And the more you avoid, the more, you see, your brain your brain believes that paruresis is a good thing because there's a part of the brain that has its own agenda, and its agenda is to make sure that the organism, you, the body, survives the environment that it's in. So we want to teach it otherwise. We want to start to link pain to avoidance and pleasure to going out there and facing it. Because we're wired in such a way that whatever you perceive to be pleasurable in the moment, you will want to move towards that. And whatever you perceive to be painful, you're going to do your best to move away from it. And we can't help but move towards pleasure. So with this information, with seeing the avoidance cycle for what it was, that was the point where I started to link pleasure towards breaking that avoidance cycle. Now, whenever you catch yourself avoiding, just be honest with yourself. I don't mean be overly critical, but just acknowledge the behaviour for what it is. So let's say, for example, and I'd do this all the time before I started to turn it around. You know, I'd be like, you know, okay, I just don't want to face it today. I would just rather have a straightforward day. Don't really want to be breaking out of my comfort zone today. I just want an easy day. But I would be honest with myself. I wouldn't stick up for the avoidant behaviour, because when you try to rationalise it and think, okay, you know, I'm not really avoiding, it's just because, whatever it is, whatever way you go about rationalising it, whenever you do that, that's just sticking up for the paruresis. The more you're honest with yourself, the harder it becomes to be. You know, it gets harder to go along with the avoidant behaviour, the more honest with yourself you are. And you see, when we're not honest with ourselves, we have a very funny relationship with ourselves, and it leads to distrust, where we don't trust ourselves, we don't trust our ability to cope with situations. And we don't trust our ability to manage and cope with situations that come out of the blue. So being honest with yourself is another key step. So that's the first thing to take on board is, okay, what effect is this avoidance having? And okay, so I can see how now I need to break the avoidance cycle. Don't be overly concerned about whether you can pee or not. Okay, we just want to start breaking that avoidance cycle. Now, to go about, I'm not expecting that you're just going to go out there and face it now because you watched this video. There's a correct way to go about doing that and a not so great way to go about doing it. You don't have to go out and walk into the lion's den, okay? There's a step-by-step process of doing this. And that's what I'm going to share with you in module 2. So I hope you got something out of this first introductory video. Watch it again. Watch it as many times as you feel you need to. What you may find is if you watch it again a couple of weeks from now, because you will have changed, you'll take in the information on a different level. So this all what I'm about to say, it applies to me as well. A lot of the times we think we know something. Oh, I've heard that before, I know that. But in truth, we don't truly know something until our behaviour changes. That's when we really know it, when we're doing things differently. Our behaviour has changed, and we can't become different until we modify our behaviour. Hope you got something out of that. Catch you on the next video.